You've replayed that text message in your head 50 times before hitting send. You've rehearsed a 5-minute conversation for 3 days straight. You've lain awake at 2 a.m., replaying something you said 6 years ago, wondering if it made you look stupid. You think this happens because you care too much, because you're careful, because you're just a deep thinker. Here's the uncomfortable part. That's not why it's happening. Your brain isn't overthinking because something is wrong with you today. It's overthinking because something protected you a long time ago, and it never got the memo to stop. By the end of this, you're going to understand exactly what that something is, and once you see it, you won't be able to unsee it. Let's start with the situation you already know by heart. You get a text, 3 dots appear, then they disappear, no message comes through. Within seconds, your brain has generated 4 possible explanations, and none of them are neutral. Did I say something wrong? Are they mad? Did I come on too strong? Should I apologize for something I haven't even done yet? This is not you being too sensitive. This is your nervous system running a threat scan, and it's running that scan because, at some point, ambiguity actually was dangerous to you. So here's the real question. Why does your brain treat a pause in texting like a 5-alarm fire? The answer starts with a psychologist named Susan Nolan Huxema. She spent decades studying what she called rumination, which is really just a scientific word for the loop you already know. A passive, repetitive focus on what's wrong, with no actual action attached to it. She found something specific. There are 2 kinds of reflection. One is useful. It's called reflective pondering, and it's a genuine attempt to understand your own emotions so you can move forward. The other is called brooding. It's comparing your current messy self against some imagined perfect version of you that never makes mistakes. Brooding doesn't solve anything. It just replays the problem on a loop, and it is one of the strongest predictors of depression and anxiety that psychology has ever measured. But here's where it gets interesting. Most people assume overthinking is a thinking problem, like your brain is just too smart, too analytical, too switched on. It's not. It's a safety problem, wearing a thinking costume. Think back to when you were younger. Maybe you grew up around unpredictable moods. Maybe one wrong word set someone off, and you never knew which word it would be. Maybe you were praised only when you performed perfectly, and quietly corrected the second you weren't. In an environment like that, overthinking wasn't a flaw. It was a survival skill. If you could predict what was about to happen, you could prepare for it. If you could scan a room and detect tension before anyone said a word, you could protect yourself from it. Your brain built an early warning system, and it worked. It kept you safe. Maybe you learned to read a slammed cupboard door the way other people read a report. Maybe you got good at noticing the half-second before someone's tone changed, because that half-second was your only warning. None of that was overthinking back then. That was intelligence. That was a nervous system doing exactly what it was built to do. The problem is, that system never got decommissioned. It's still running, except now it's scanning text messages and Slack replies instead of an unpredictable household. This is what psychologists call an environmental mismatch. The tool made sense for the world you grew up in. It makes a lot less sense for the world you live in now, and yet your brain hasn't caught up. There's another layer underneath this one, and it comes from a completely different angle of research. Psychologists Leonard Martin and Abraham Tesser proposed something called goal progress theory. Their idea is simple. Your brain doesn't ruminate randomly. It ruminates specifically when you're chasing something important to you, and you hit a wall you can't get past. Here's the twist. You won't let go of the goal, but you also don't take the next action toward it. So your brain gets stuck in between. It can't move forward, and it refuses to move on. Researchers have a blunt name for this state: a skull full of poison. Endless mental noise, dressed up to look like productive thinking that produces exactly 0 results. That's the trap. Overthinking feels like work. It feels like you're being responsible, careful, thorough. But if nothing changes on the outside, it isn't problem solving. It's just distress with better posture. What most people don't realize is that this loop isn't only psychological, it's physical too. When your brain hits an obstacle, it releases a very specific chemical sequence. First comes norepinephrine, which spikes your alertness and basically shouts that something is wrong. Then comes acetylcholine, which sharpens your focus onto the exact spot where the error happened. Then comes the decision point. If you lean in and actually engage with the problem, your brain rewards you with dopamine, and that dopamine is what builds motivation and momentum. But if you freeze instead of engaging, you get all of the alarm chemicals and none of the reward. You get the anxiety without the payoff. That's the biological signature of overthinking. Your body is fully activated and your mind is going nowhere. This connects to something even deeper, something researchers call the identity ceiling. For a lot of high-achieving, highly self-aware people, there is an invisible limit on how much success, ease, or peace their nervous system will actually allow. Get too close to that ceiling, and the brain starts to sabotage things, quietly, in order to pull you back down to a level that feels familiar. Not because familiar is good, because familiar is predictable, and your brain values predictable over comfortable almost every time. This is where procrastination actually comes from. Not laziness, not lack of discipline. It's your brain buying you distance from the risk of being evaluated. It's the obsessive need to make something perfect, which is really just a shield so no one can criticize the imperfect, exposed version. It's the argument you start with someone you love, right when things are going well, because closeness has started to feel like a threat. This changes everything about how you should be responding to your own overthinking. You've probably tried to think your way out of it. More analysis, more journaling about the problem, more trying to logic your way to calm, and it hasn't fully worked because overthinking isn't purely a thought. It's a state your nervous system is holding on to in your body, your jaw, your shoulders, your chest. You cannot think your way out of a physiological state. You have to signal safety to your body first and let your mind follow. This is why a long, slow exhale actually does something a clever argument with yourself never will. A prolonged exhale activates your parasympathetic system, the part of your nervous system responsible for signaling calm to the deeper, older parts of your brain. It's not a trick. It's biology, talking to biology, in a language older than words. So here's what actually works, and it's smaller than you'd expect. When the loop starts, name the fear underneath it. Not "I'm worried," but the specific thing. "I'm afraid this makes me look incompetent." Naming it pulls it out of the vague fog and into something you can actually deal with. Then set a deadline. Give the decision a hard stop, 5 minutes. Not because 5 minutes gives you more clarity, but because a deadline forces your brain out of endless analysis and into action, which is the only thing that actually produces dopamine and momentum. Then write one sentence, just one. The next physical action, stated plainly, not the whole plan, just the next single step. This bypasses the analytical loop entirely, because a loop needs abstraction to survive, and one concrete sentence leaves it nowhere to hide. Here's the realization underneath all of this. Overthinking was never proof that something is broken in you. It was proof that something in you learned, a long time ago, how to survive a world that wasn't safe. That system did its job. It kept you alert, kept you prepared, kept you one step ahead of danger you couldn't always see coming. It deserves some credit for that. But the war it was built for is over, and the shield doesn't know that yet. Your job isn't to silence your mind. It's to finally tell your nervous system the truth. You're not in that environment anymore. You are allowed to put the shield down. If this explained something about yourself you've never had words for, you already know what to do. Let me know in the comments which part hit hardest, because chances are you're not the only one who needed to hear it.